Hello everyone, my name is Lily Holderfield, and I'm going to be talking about the Oxford comma and hopefully helping you form an opinion or evaluate your opinion if you already have one, whether you're for or against it. So, in order to have an informed opinion and create an informed opinion, you actually need to know what the Oxford comma is. So, that's what I'm going to talk about first. So, the Oxford comma precedes the word and or in a list of three or more items in a sentence. So in this example sentence I gave, it says, I drank coffee, comma, tea, comma, and water. And if you see, the comma behind tea is actually red because that's an Oxford comma. It creates that separation between the item that comes before the last and the last. So a little bit more about what the Oxford comma is it helps separate items like I just said. So if we look at that example, it says apples, comma, oranges, and grapefruit. And then the one under it that does have the Oxford comma says apples, comma, oranges, comma, and grapefruit. So that extra comma just helps separate oranges from grapefruit. It also provides clarity. So it says, the sample sentence says, I went to lunch with my dogs, comma, Harry and Taylor. Obviously, that doesn't include the Oxford comma, and it seems like my dogs' names are Harry and Taylor. However, that's not the case. If you read the second sample sentence, which does include the Oxford comma, it says, I went to lunch with my dogs, comma, Harry, comma, and Taylor. There, we're actually creating a difference. Like, we're saying, I went to lunch with my dogs, Harry, and Taylor. They're three separate things, not my two dogs who are named Harry and Taylor. So it just provides that extra sense of clarity within a sentence. It also gives the reader an order. So if we read the sample sentence under it, pour the ingredients into a bowl, mix the ingredients together, and bake at 350 for 20 minutes. So when you're reading that, you get a defined sense of first, second, and last in an order. And obviously, there could be more than three. I just included three. So, I know that I've read recipes that aren't always grammatically correct, and sometimes they're hard to decipher between, am I supposed to do these steps together or separate? So adding that comma just really, really helps. So what is the history of the Oxford comma? Who, when, where, and why? So people don't actually know where it originated. We first see the term Oxford comma in a work published by Peter H. Sutcliffe, but in that same work, he actually credits the idea of the Oxford comma and the definition of the Oxford comma to F.H. Collins, who is another British author. So we see Peter H. Sutcliffe talk about this in the Oxford University Press, but then we see F.H. Collins talk about it in Authors and Printers Dictionary. But when we look even further back, we're seeing that Herbert Spencer, who was a Victorian philosopher who lived during the 1700s, was actually using the Oxford comma already. However, we don't know if he was using it in the same meaning in the same way that we would use it today, or if H. Collins meant for him to use it, or if it fit into that definition, or if he was just using the comma to use a comma. So it's kind of up in the air as to who created it. So when we first see the definition of the Oxford comma without the term attached to it in 1912, like I said earlier, in F.H. Collins' Authors and Printers Dictionary. We see the term Oxford comma start circulating in 1978 when Sutcliffe writes about it in the Oxford University Press, An Informal History. Both of those works are listed under where, and they were both published by the Oxford University Press, which is located in Oxford, England. So, why? It provided context and made sentences clearer and more understandable. That's why Collins felt the need to write about it and include it in his works and tell people about it. But it is important to mention that not everyone actually uses the Oxford comma or agrees with using the Oxford comma. Some people strongly advocate against it for many different reasons. So going over those reasons, I found three top reoccurring reasons. The first one is that it's unnecessary. It is not needed to understand the sentence. If the meaning remains the same without it, why not leave it out and add a conjunction? However, they do mention in that same article that if you need that comma to understand the sentence, kind of like how we talked about in the dogs example, then you need to put it in. It is also, the second reason is they think it's pointless. It doesn't add any additional meaning to the sentence in the same way a word would, and it can actually confuse the reader more than provide clarity. And the third is one that I'm having trouble getting behind. I just don't really understand the argument, is that it's time consuming. They say that it only takes a second to put the comma in, but those seconds add up, especially if you're using it frequently. So in the same way that it's time consuming for the writer, it's also time consuming for the reader. The reader is trained to pause when they see a comma, so it adds time to completing a reading for something. So I'm going to give you my opinion now. And in the beginning, I believe that the Oxford comma was extremely important to provide clarity. I always used it in any and all of my writings. And now that I'm done with the project, I've researched more about the Oxford comma. I feel like I have a better understanding of it. My opinion did not change. I still find the Oxford comma extremely important. I believe if your argument against it includes use it when necessary, then you should just use it anyway. Why not get into the habit of using it? That's something that I didn't quite understand when reading about the arguments, is like, if you're advocating against it, but then you say, but you need to include it, then why not just include it anyway, regardless of whether you feel like it takes away or adds meaning to a sentence. I was looking for a quote about the Oxford comma, and I couldn't find one. So I came up with one on my own, and it said, just use the Oxford comma. It isn't that hard. And it's a quote by me because I firmly believe that. I think that you should use the Oxford comma. It just makes so much more, it helps the sentence make so much more sense, and adds clarity for the reader. And sometimes you need that separation in between words. So that is all. Here's my works cited page. If you would like to leave your opinions on the Oxford comma in the comments below, I'd really appreciate it. I would love to read them. Let me know whether you're for or against it. If this presentation helped you understand the Oxford comma more, or helped you maybe change your opinion, or what your opinion is, I would love to read those. So thank you so much for watching.